experience of Family of Abraham events, friends reconnecting, people meeting new people. That's the essence and the core of what Family of Abraham is about, building these relationships that surprise us with their ability to speak to our human selves and bring out the best in us. And so I want to welcome you tonight. My name is Robert Montgomery. I'm one of the rookies in a certain way with Family of Abraham. And I'm a part of the organizing committee that pulls these events together for all of us in the community. And tonight, obviously, we're here to hear Samaya Khalifa speak on the topic of my interfaith journey from Egypt to Atlanta via Texas. And I'm willing to say that you have probably never heard a speaker speak on that topic before. So you have that already going for you. Ms. Khalifa was named by the Huffington Post as one of 5 people across America currently most powerfully inspiring peace. So we are truly blessed and truly honored to have her with us tonight. I am following in big footsteps. Erwin Vinnick usually often does this. He set a very high standard. And he has shared some of his notes with me, and I want to share them with you. I want to begin by thanking Woodmont Christian Church for hosting us tonight. We truly appreciate the groups that open up their facilities for us to be here, so thank you very much, Woodmont. We gather here in peace, so in the interest of doing that, building that with each other, we ask you now to find your cell phone and turn it to off, or at least onto mute. So good little immediate peace building with your neighbor there. For those of you who may not be too familiar with the Family of Abraham, Family of Abraham is an interfaith group which includes more than just the Abrahamic religions, but which believes it's important for each of us to live up to the very best in our own values, faith traditions, and cultures, rather than becoming paralyzed by fear or isolation or ignorance of each other. Family of Abraham believes that the differences among us are best addressed by meeting together face to face to actually hear from each other and to talk to each other rather than whisper and talk about each other. So we are here not to say that we all agree by any stretch, but that we are all committed to working for a peaceful, safe, and just world and community for everyone. Towards that end, the Family of Abraham has sponsored and or supported programs over the past 2 years which have addressed questions about Islam, about interfaith relationships in general, and about how adults can help children grow into active participants in a society and a culture which includes many diverse peoples and traditions. This evening's speaker is Samaya Khalifa, who will share her own personal story as one living example of how interfaith relationships can be, and indeed are actively being built all over the country. Ms. Khalifa is noted across the country for her work. She and her family live in Atlanta, Georgia, where she is the executive director of the Islamic Speakers Bureau in that area. She was critical in founding the Islamic Speakers Bureau in 2001. She is perhaps best known across the country for hosting the 16-part series entitled Meet Your Muslim Neighbor. She is also an adjunct faculty member at Emory University in Atlanta, among other community services and posts. Also with us tonight as panelists to respond to Ms. Khalifa's remarks and offer their own observations are Mr. Tom Negri, who is the interim executive director of the Metro Human Relations Commission, Reverend Rick Britton of St. Anne's Episcopal Church here in Nashville, and Sulfat Suara, who is the chair of the American Muslim Advisory Council of Tennessee. So welcome. Just a note on format. A big part of our evening tonight will be spent with questions from you. We will collect questions a couple of times tonight, right after Ms. Khalifa speaks, and then we'll try to be alert to any questions you may have. As the panelists speak, you should find a index card on your seat. We ask you to write as legibly as you can whatever question you have, and just sort of keep holding those up. And we'll have some people who will route those to the front, and we'll try to address as many as we can. Just a further little hospitality note, restrooms can be found out this back door. The women's restroom is immediately on your right. As I was told, the men have to go through Noah's Ark all the way at the end. I'm not going to try to parse that. It's all the way down at the end of the hall. So, with that, I'd like to encourage and invite Ms. Sumaya Khalifa to come and speak to us. Please join me in welcoming her.
Greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Wow. Can you hear me all right back there? All right. Shalom to you all. I have to tell you, when I speak, you will hear a lot of y'all. And I got to tell you a story about that. And the story is, my son lived in San Francisco for a while, and he had a friend who was from South Carolina. And you can imagine the friend from South Carolina had a very heavy South Carolinian accent. And the two of them went to another friend's house to have dinner. And so they were kind of talking about the friend from South Carolina and how his accent was kind of different. And anyways, their host said, I think the most interesting thing I've ever heard in my life was when I was in Atlanta, Georgia. The executive director of the Islamic Speakers Bureau hosted us at her house, and she said, Assalamu alaikum, y'all. All right? So if you hear the y'all, you know where it's coming from. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight on a weeknight. I want to thank the family of Abraham for inviting me, because really, thank you so much for the bio and the introduction you read. Those are all things that somebody else did. I'm just little old me, and all those things just happen because I've been at the right place at the right time. And some people also tell me it's because I work hard, but I think I'm extremely lucky. Last night, the organization that I run is called the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta. And we have about 40 certified and trained speakers who go out and speak. And part of the process is for them to write a report on what the engagement was like. We are currently working with the Jewish Community Center. They have a year-long class, Islam for Jews. And the professor is somebody that I know, and he reached out to us and said, would it be possible for me to bring my students to different mosques around Atlanta for them to be able to encounter and experience Islam and the diversity of it? And we said, absolutely, bring them on. And so we have scheduled 3 or 4 different visits to 4 different mosques in the Metro Atlanta area. And yesterday, the speaker who was with them to answer questions and give them a tour wrote back on what it was like interacting with each other. And one of the things that he said, and I hope I don't get emotional now, but when I was reading it yesterday, I got very emotional. My husband said, what's the matter? I said, I just can't believe how lucky I am, because I have this opportunity to work with so many people to build bridges of understanding. What happened is one of the guys who went to the mosque, he had a letter, and the letter had a stamp, And the letter apparently was sent to him many years ago. And it was sent from Ottoman Palestine. And he brought that letter with him to show and to share with others. Isn't that I was just crying. I don't know what was the matter, but it really got me. So doing interfaith work is an absolute gift. It's an absolute blessing by reaching out and connecting human beings with other human beings and finding out what we have in common. It's really amazing what we have in common. Now, today, I had lunch with Betty and Bernard, and I have to tell you, Nashville, you got it going. Look at this here, this newspaper. How many cities, is that you in the picture? Oh, I wanted to meet you. How many cities around the country or around the world that have Muslims visiting synagogues and Jews visiting mosques? Absolutely incredible. So please, give yourselves a hand. Yeah. So when they shared that with me, I said, what in the world am I doing here? Y'all already know what to do. This is amazing. So congratulations. So, when I found out that I was coming, I'm on Facebook, so if anybody's on Facebook, please be friends. And I said I'm going to Nashville. And I'm going to be speaking of the family of Abraham, just to kind of, see what people say. I found out that some really big names have been here. And I said, what in the world am I doing? I'm walking into some big footsteps here. And I also have somebody that I've worked with, a dear friend, who said his mother was going to be here tonight. Is Miss Lombard in the house? Oh, hello! I got to meet you. Well, Joseph and I go a long way. So that's what Facebook is for. So you got to tell them that I asked about you. So, tonight, I want y'all, ground rules, guys. Okay, ground rules. Ground rules are, it's going to be participative. Meaning, I'll ask questions, y'all answer it. Okay? And if I say something funny or quasi-funny, please laugh. That helps a lot. All right? So, thank you. Let me tell you about my journey. And that was the topic of the title of my talk tonight. Is that my necklace going to be doing that sound? All right, that's what I'm doing. All right. Well, I'm going to take it off. I better do that. Excuse me for a second. I have to tell you, one time I was doing a presentation. There we go. I was doing a presentation, and I don't know if you know that headscarves have fashion. Did y'all know that? Yeah. Different ages wear their scarves differently. The scarf that I'm wearing is a square scarf, and I like silk scarves. Okay, so if you all ever find silk square scarves, let me know. On sale. The younger generation, however, likes to wear the long scarf, and they wrap it around. All right? So one time I was going to go speak to the Optimist Club, and I decided I'm going to be really cool, and I'm going to wear the long scarf. I don't know how to put the darn thing on, right? So I put it on before I left the house, and I went, and I was talking, and all of a sudden, I felt air in the back of my neck. And my scarf in the back had fallen off. So I told him, excuse me, I have a scarf malfunction. Let me fix it, and I'll come back. So this is what happened. Tonight, I've had a necklace malfunction. So let me tell you about the journey from Egypt to Atlanta through Texas. It is that journey that really started the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta. The Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta is a nonprofit educational organization. We have women and men. I'm driving you crazy taking the video. I'm so sorry. Women and men who are trained and certified to speak about Islam and Muslims. And they speak about it in terms of an academic fashion. They teach and they do not preach. It's very key, because whenever any of us speaks about something that's near and dear to their heart, such as their beliefs, and if they're not careful, it becomes a preaching session versus a teaching session. And we always operate under the First Amendment guidelines, okay, where we talk about religion. So, how did that start for me was actually, and I didn't realize that until after I started the Islamic Speakers Bureau, it started from a very early age. As a young child in Alexandria, Egypt, that's where I was born, I went to French Catholic school that was run by nuns. And during that time, certain socioeconomic class sent their daughters to French school and their sons to English school. Don't ask me why, but that was the norm. All right? And so when I was in school, for it being a Catholic, it was a convent actually, they had Mass on Saturday. And I used to go to Mass with my friends, 3-4-year-old. And I used to go home and tell my mom, oh, I went to Mass today. And my mom would be very puzzled. What in the world? I have a really mixed up child. And she says, well, you are a Muslim. Why do you go to Mass? I said, well, I go with my friends. And the way I saw it as a young child was that I go to Mass to sing to God, and I pray at home to God as a Muslim. So that kind of stuck with me in a sense that I did not realize. We moved to the United States, and it was because my mom, who was a medical doctor, had an opportunity to further her research. And my father was also a medical doctor, and the decision was made that the whole family will move. So we moved to Dallas, Texas, and we were supposed to have been here for 1 year, and we have been here for over 40 years. Okay, I always tease that the year is not over yet. Fast forward, I have an undergraduate degree in chemistry. My background in terms of profession is in human resources. My identity was that I had 3 separate identities, that of an American, that of a Muslim, and that of an Egyptian. And growing up, it was very hard for me to bring all those identities together all the time to all the people. Until I guess it was a spiritual journey or maturing, I don't know what it was, and I became comfortable with all parts of me. And this is when I wanted to tell the world, I am all those people. And what I wanted to do is take that and help others build bridges of understanding between the Muslim American community and the community at large. And this is how the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta started. And we started August 18th, 2001. Isn't that kind of weird? 9/11 happened, and we did not know what to do with ourselves. Do we wait it out, or do we go forward? And the word had already gone out that we have an Islamic Speakers Bureau, and we started receiving requests. And from then on, my life has not been the same. It has been so deeply enriched. How are we doing on time? Am I doing okay? How many more minutes do we have?
12.
12? Okay, gosh, I haven't even gotten started. All right, so let me tell you some kind of funny stories. Or I thought they were funny, at least. I'll tell you a couple, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we run into. I was in a church, and I wear a lot of black. All right? And this older gentleman, after we got done, he kind of was standing on the side, and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Absolutely, sir. What question do you have?" I thought he was going to ask me about, the 5 pillars of Islam or this or that. And he said, "You're wearing black. Is that part of your tradition?" I said, "Absolutely it is. It's part of my American tradition. I'm told that The fatter I get, the more black I wear because it makes me slimmer. And if you walk into my closet, you will be in a sea of black. Right? I think he was kind of like, okay. Let me tell you about another incident that took place that was kind of a little different. When we first started, we got a request. And the request was from the Bickers Club. We had no idea what the Bickers Club was. We thought it was, misspelling the Bakers Club or something. And they gave us an address where they're going to meet. So we had our laptop, our projector, we had show and tell stuff, and I had a couple of other people with me, and all three of us went, and we get to that place, and we're ready to go to do a presentation. Guess what it was? It was a bar. For those of you who know, Muslims are not supposed to be drinking, right? And they're not supposed to be around bars. So 3 of us were going into a bar to do a presentation about Islam, not knowingly. And so that was something that is still very fresh on my mind. Our work has taken us to places that are absolutely phenomenal, incredible. Because I'm the leader of the organization, I get the privilege of doing a lot of stuff, including being on the planning committee with the World Council of Churches to plan a Muslim-Christian dialogue that took place in Geneva, Switzerland. I had the opportunity to be on a national dialogue between Muslims and Baptists up in Massachusetts when it was snowing. The list goes on and on and on. And it's just absolutely incredible. Had anybody told me when we started the organization of all the things and all the places that we would go, I would have said, you're crazy. It can't be. How could we make that happen? So, and remember, going back to, I am just a very simple person that does not have any special talents, but we were able to bring together people, like-minded people, to work together who were determined to make a difference and determined to work hard and make the world a better place. So in terms of some keys to success, it's the determination, it's perseverance, the ability to build long-lasting relationships, and to keep them. That's harder than making them. So how do we build relationships? Relationships are built on trust. Anybody here good with music? Anybody? Raise your hand, somebody. Remember, participate. I can't say the word, but y'all gotta help me out. Anybody? Thank you. You want to come up here for a second? Well, help me from there then. Would you help me from there? Sure. Okay. All right. Remember when you used to study biology or chemistry and you got to remember all the things that the answer for the test? And did y'all ever get the first letter for each of the key words and made something out of it? All right? How are you going to help me from back there? Okay, well, I've got some letters that we need to kind of come together and remember them. All right? No, you need to come on. Come on. All right. So, thank you. What is your name, sir? Mark. Hi, Mark. I'm Sumaya. Nice to meet you. All right, come on up. All right, so it's KTTG plus 2. How are we going to sing that? You got to be quick on your feet. Our time is running out.
I know. I'm going to use up your 12 minutes.
Oh.
Well, I mean, there's
just sing them.
Like a phrase that you can use.
No, just do KTTG.
KTTG?
Plus 2.
Plus 2.
Yeah, give it some rhythm.
KTTG plus 2.
Okay, guys, come on. Lead us.
KTTG plus 2.
Come on, guys.
KTTG plus 2.
One more time.
KTTG plus 2.
You're amazing. Thank you. So what does the K stand up for? Thank you so much. The K stands for, okay, guys, if you want to write it down or if you want to memorize it or get your cell phones out or whatever, That's important stuff. K is for keeping your promises. Keeping promises, however small they might be. Including, if you are supposed to be at a meeting, you got to be there when you said you would be there. Okay? If you're running late, you need to let people know. This is keeping promises. T. T is for telling the truth. Sometimes we all think we are telling the truth, but we might, spice it up a little bit, or, do something that's not quite 100% truth, but a little bit close to it. So telling the truth is very important. Being transparent. That's the second T, transparency. What you see is what you get. Let me tell you about, we have been involved with the American Jewish Film Festival in Atlanta. It's the second largest in the nation. And we have been invited to be on panel discussions after films. And we had to turn some down. We are not comfortable doing that particular film because we are a nonprofit, non-political organization. And one would think if we turn somebody down, then, they're not going to come back and ask us to join them again. But actually, it brings a lot of respect. Being transparent and speaking your mind. Okay, G. Give without strings attached. Give without strings attached. Let me share a story. We were contacted and told that a Muslim professor, scholar, was coming to Atlanta because he was doing a study about Muslim Americans. And he and his team were coming down. Well, what we did was invite him, had a really nice dinner for him at a restaurant, invited key leaders in the community to meet with him, and facilitated all his trip to Atlanta, meeting with leaders, meeting with media, meeting with all the people. Did we expect anything in return? Absolutely not. What happened next was really amazing. Is that people on his team really appreciated what was done for them and what was shown to them in terms of hospitality in Atlanta, that when the New York Times reached out to them and said, we want to feature some female leaders in the United States who are making the difference. Guess what? They gave them my name. And it was like, wow, New York Times, me? What are you talking about? All right? So initially it was a no strings attached and giving. All right. Then the +2 that you let us in so beautifully, give it time. It doesn't happen overnight. Give it time. In Atlanta, we've been at this for going on 13 years now. All right? And as we come together as people of faith or no faith, we need to come together and talk about what is common between us. There's always an elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room between Muslims and Jews is the subject of the State of Israel. When we interact, Muslims and Jews together, we need to realize that is the elephant in the room and decide to hold off on that discussion until we build that trust. We could get there later, but we need to focus on building the trust. All right? The elephant in the room between Muslims and Christians is what? Jesus Christ, may peace be upon him. All right? But in terms of the differences and the commonalities are much, much bigger. So why don't we work on that, and then let's address the elephant in the room later. I want to end with a little story, and the story is, it actually happened yesterday, so this is fresh off the press. I was invited to a breakfast yesterday where Rabbi David Rosen, who used to be the chief rabbi of Ireland, but now he is the International Director of Interreligious Affairs for the American Jewish Committee. And what Rabbi Rosen said, interfaith and interreligious engagements are absolutely essential. They have a committee in Jerusalem of interfaith folks, all three main Abrahamic religions. And he believes that the work that we do here, whether in Atlanta or Nashville, is so important because each one of us really needs to impact their circle of influence and grow that. And people will find, look at what the folks in Nashville, Tennessee are doing. We could do like they are doing, maybe even better. I don't think that's possible. But you all are role models, I know for me. And I really appreciate the opportunity and the honor to be with you all tonight. Thank you so much.
I want to ask our panelists to come forward. Zulfat and Tom and Rick, if you would have a seat up here. Hopefully you have some questions. Questions from your own experience or questions from anything that Sumaya had to say to us tonight. So please just hold those up or pass them to the end of the files and we'll try to pick those up. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to take 3 to 5 minutes. I was actually kind of shocked that Sumaya stuck to that 12 minutes. I'm so used to speakers who for 2 minutes, and I'm one of them, 2 minutes becomes 20, so I have to applaud that. But I hope you will feel free tonight to add into this discussion. But I'd like to ask each one of our panelists to speak to us about 3 to 5 minutes about their responses to what Ms. Khalifa has shared with us from their own experiences as well. And I think I'll ask if it's okay for Rick to go first, and then for Zulfat to speak to us, and then Tom at the end.
Thank you. It's really good to be with all of you tonight. I'm just always amazed and taken by folks who are from a country of another origin and different origin and have to not only face the challenges of acculturation, but also have to deal with bigotry and prejudice and how we can overcome those things. And part of my response is feeling very fortunate and blessed that I belong to a Christian community called the Episcopal Church that has taken interreligious relationships very seriously. And it has really formed me and motivated me in the things that I've been involved in. Our General Convention, which is a gathering of Episcopalians, meets every 3 years. At our last one, our Committee on Interreligious Relationships passed a resolution, and one of the resolves was that all members of the church be encouraged to be involved actively and appropriately on every possible level in interreligious work, such as, but not limited to, services, prayer groups, educational programs, community service, and study groups. And I just feel that that spirit has really taken hold of us in the Episcopal Church. One of the things, there's a number of things that have happened that have inspired me, and you may have heard about them. In Pasadena, California, there was a meeting of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, and it met at All Saints Episcopal Church. And because of that, there was hate mail and there were threats made against these folks. And the priest there at All Saints said that I've been called names all my life from the ultra-conservative reactionary position, but this is a level of demeaning that I've not seen before. Demeaning not just for me, but for the Muslim faith of this organization, the Prophet Muhammad, and the Quran. It tells me that there's a culture of fear in America, a perversion of Christianity, which has turned it into a religion of fear, which, of course, it is not. Out in Omaha, Nebraska, there is a congregation of Jewish folks and those of the Islamic faith and Christians who are building sort of a tripod place of worship. They bought a golf course that Jews used. That was the only place that they could play golf. And now there is a community of worship for Jews and for Muslims and for Christians. And I'm proud to say that it was the Episcopal Diocese there in Nebraska that is partnering with Lutherans for the Christian part. And in the middle of these three communities, these three buildings, is going to be called the House of Abraham, where they will come together and they will talk and do all kind of educational events as well. In Connecticut, the diocese gave a Islamic community a church that was no longer occupied. The congregation died, and they were given the building. The other thing is, I don't know if you've seen this, I'm going to go very quickly here. There's this terrible website, and the website has a list of Islam cuddling churches. And they're cute. And it's a terrible website. And there are 71 Christian congregations listed, of which 12 are Episcopal. They include our National Cathedral in Washington, St. Paul's Cathedral in Boston, and St. Andrew's Cathedral in Hawaii. And I'm kind of proud that we cuddle like that. That's what we're yeah. And as I come to a close, just a few things here in Nashville. So proud to be a part of the movement that the Sojourners have in terms of, remember the billboards in Murfreesboro, love your Muslim neighbor? We were a part of that and so proud to be a part of that when the folks in Murfreesboro were getting such a hard time. The imam from the Islamic Center of Nashville came over and did an evening with us, and we were so proud to do that. Our confirmation class at our church visited a synagogue last year, and we're going to do it again this year, and hopefully visit the Islamic Center here. And so these are sort of the things that we are doing. But again, I'm not trying to brag, I guess I am, about my tradition, but that stuff rubs off on you folks. When you have leaders, men and women, who are doing prophetic work and justice, it just, you can't help but get caught up in that. So I'm just proud of being a part of it, and I want to continue in my own special way. Thank you.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight. I literally took the topic literally, and I thought, okay, I need to tell them my journey. Leave out the planes and the automobiles, but basically tell you all how I got here. The American Muslim Advisory Council, for which I'm the chair, is an organization here in Tennessee that has members from East to West Tennessee. And our mission is basically to serve as a bridge between the Muslim community and the larger community. What we have found, and what I love about what we do, is that there are several organizations that are working on telling people about Muslims, Islam, and their cultures. But there's not a lot of organizations out there. AMAC is one of the few that actually work with the Muslim community itself. We believe that in order to have a good dialogue, the Muslims have to be at the table. And while it is important for everyone to understand Muslims and their cultures, it's also important for the Muslims to understand the larger community in which we live. How did I get here? I believe that my training and my involvement in this kind of work, I break it into 4 parts. The first one, in my opinion, started even before I was born. My dad, Abubakar, who is a Muslim, married my mom, Victoria. My dad comes from a place in Nigeria where they're predominantly Muslim. My mother on the other side, they come from a strong Christian family. They have their own church, they have a pew in their name. And to make the story interesting, my mother was a widow before she met my dad, and she had a son from that marriage. So I have a half-brother who's a Christian. What that journey actually taught me was growing up I had to live with the two fractions in my family. And I believe that that's part of what made me who I am today, because I had to learn to live with my mother and my father's family. The story was that my aunt, who is actually a reverend mother, did not support my parents' marriage. But by the time I grew up, my dad has won him over. And he did that so lovingly. And I grew up to see these two people with different religion actually grew to love and respect each other. The second part of my training, my dad actually enrolled me in an all-girls Islamic school. And growing up seeing my dad interact with my mother's family, I thought it was because my dad was fabulous. If you meet my dad, he's one of the best people that I've ever known. And so I thought he was doing it just because of the person that he is, or he was. He passed away a few years ago. But being in an Islamic school, I actually learned the stories about the Prophet ﷺ. I learned how during the time when he was the ruler in Medina, there were Jews and Christians living at the time. I learned the tradition of my faith is that we should actually learn to get along, that there is no compulsion in religion. So my dad was not just being a fabulous saint, he was actually following the practice of the Prophet. Again, another key lesson in who I am today. The third one was actually when I moved to Nashville. At that time, most of the mosques were not working together. I remember visiting a friend, we had a little party, and there was an invitation to a gathering, and it says for Arabs only. So we got offended, like, what do you mean Arab only? What about us? So a few of us got together, and the Islamic Center of Nashville sponsored the event that year. And we involved every mosque and every culture. We also started a group of women. We started having classes. There were Afghanistan, Africans, Americans. And what that did as part of what I'm doing today, working with the Muslim community, is actually my work then started through the relationship that I built at that time. The final part of my training happened about 12 years ago. The good Lord says, Zulfat, okay, you've been doing interfaith work with the people that you know, with your family among the Muslim community. But now I want to test how you're going to deal with this. So in 2002, my family moved to a town in West Tennessee called Bolivar. You guys know where that is? Okay, that is rural Tennessee. We may not be the first Muslim family to be in Bolivar, but we're the first visible family in Bolivar. And I had a choice when I got there, whether I would stay in. It was right after 9/11. If I was going to retreat into my own self, because I don't have the mosque, I don't have my family, it's just my husband and my kids. But I decided that with the training that I've had with my family, and the one that I've had with my splitted community, that I need to reach out into my community and let people know who I am. So I started the Junior Achievement of Hardeman County. It's a program that I've helped a lot of students in my county up to date. I became the president of the Business and Professional Women Club. And I had a lot of many fabulous relations come out of Hardeman County. When we had the anti-Sharia bill, my representative was the only one that came and met the Muslim delegates before we went inside. One of the relationships that I built that I wanted to share with you was with Mrs. Mask. Mrs. Mask is an 85-year-old Caucasian woman. I bought my office building from her. Her husband passed away a few years after, and so she called me. She needed to do a doctor. I found her a doctor. I'll take her to a clinic, and she adopted me. When my daughter wanted to have Grandmother's Day, Mrs. Mask went as Sophia's grandmother. And up till today, she calls herself Sophia's grandmother. She remembers birthday, she sends her card. When the anti-Sharia bill happened, our daughter that lives in Murfreesboro actually contacted Senator Ketchum and made an appointment with him and said, Zulfat, you are my little sister, and nobody is going to intimidate you. I tell you all this story because it's the same one that I share with my Muslim community. When we talk about interfaith work, we talk about trust, but we also talk about education, learning about each other. We could learn by observing. I watched my father and my aunt. We could learn through reading. I did that in school. We can also learn by interaction. And the more we get to know about each other, the more we realize that we have a whole lot in common. So my hope and my aim of doing what I do is that I hope one day we will all get to know each other enough so that maybe, just like my dad and my aunts did, we will learn to accept each other and hopefully respect each other, and who knows, grow to love each other. Thank you.
I'm sure I get to follow you. Hi, I'm Tom Negri. I'm a 57-year-old white guy. Yeah. I'm actually a new arrival to Tennessee. I came here 16 years ago, with my family. And it was kind of interesting because I was an immigrant. I went to school in part in Colombia, South America, where I met my wife of 37 years now. So I'm very excited about that. I have 2 boys and they live here. And I suppose my life in the hotel business sort of prepared me for not only this evening, but for my role as the interim director of human relations for the city of Nashville. In part because I can remember many times, because in the hotel business we deal with a lot of different groups. And there are very few groups that I've ever said no to. And one of those groups I had to say no to here, which was an anti-Islamic group who had booked a meeting at the hotel. And we had not known who this group was because it was called, I think, the New English Review. There's probably someone here from that group who's now taping me and is going to follow me home or something. But that's already been done. The fact of the matter was, I got a call from the authorities saying that you know that you had this group staying with you and they've requested bulletproof vests for their speakers. And it was my opinion at the time, and I work for Lowe's Hotels, and the owners of Lowe's Hotels are Jewish. And it's founded by a Jewish corporation. And it was very, very interesting. I called them and they said, yeah, no, they can't stay there. Isn't that kind of neat? All right, so I got backing all the way up the line to New York. We said no, and it was incredibly challenging, but I was rewarded by the entire community here saying, hey, I know that guy, all right? He's a good guy, he runs a great hotel, he made the right decision. And I think by doing so, it brought the community together. So how does that relate to my family? I have 2 boys, one who's 31 years old. He looks like his mother, so he looks, I guess he's brown. Oh my God, he's brown. And my other son looks just like me. Well, my oldest son gets pulled over continually, I guess driving while brown. But, which is really very, very interesting when you think about it. And he's been asked for his papers and asked what Middle Eastern country he comes from. Kind of interesting, huh? He's got to take the beard off, you know. But it's been very educational for my family, and it helps me doing what we're doing here this evening. Prior to coming here this evening, and I'll end there, I had a meeting with the Diocese of Nashville, Bishop Chobe, and I'm on the investment committee there, and I told him I was coming here. And Bishop Chobe was very, very helpful in having the Catholic Diocese help with the mosque in Murfreesboro. And he did come out and say, everybody has the right to practice their religion. And he has come out on many issues of this nature, so I'm very proud of that fact. And with that said, I guess I'll...
Can I have one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Can I say one thing?
No way.
Just real quick, how many of you were able to crash the party when the temple went to the Islamic Center in Murfreesboro for that afternoon of dialogue?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was one of the most powerful things that I think I've ever attended, and it was just so good to be with my Jewish brothers and Islamic brothers and sisters as well, to hear the conversation, to see those faces of the folks at the Islamic Center, those young people who are so fresh and exciting and really good students. They were telling me some of the majors at MTSU, unbelievable. But it was just such a great thing, and I just really appreciate the temple for having 3 big buses and letting us crash that party, us Christians. It was great, and so I hope that sort of thing continues between the temple and the Islamic Center of Murfreesboro.
You can keep that. I think I've got one. Yes, and I think perhaps the headline that Samaya was holding up was the return visit of the Muslim community to the temple just this past Sunday. So, as a Christian, I just want to stand in awe of what you're doing there and applaud you for that. Within the history of the family of Abraham, there was an early group called Circle of Friends, which may have had the good wisdom not to include us Christians in that conversation early on, but Jews and Muslims sitting down with each other and doing exactly a lot of what has been mentioned tonight. And I want to applaud that as a person of faith for the people who had the courage to do that, who could believe that could work, and did that. Having seen the highs and the lows of interfaith work, I was appreciative of some of what Samaya said. There are some lows that can happen when fear overtakes the leaders. It's one thing to deal with the fear that comes from the community, but it can invade the leadership circle. And so that work that was done in Circle of Friends, I believe, carries enormous impact and enormous benefits for the entire Tennessee community and beyond. But I'm not a panelist, so I want to ask some questions instead. I'm going to start with a really deep and searching one for Samaya. So I don't know how you may
I'm
have
going
to
to tell you one thing. I try to answer anything except my age and weight.
Okay. Well, this one is close. Because someone wants to know what happened in the tavern when you went.
Well, what happened was that we were praying real hard that no Muslim will see us in a bar. And what was happening there, it was a really weird club. It was the Bickers Club. And what they do is they get together every month and they bicker. And so we ended up being in the bar for like 4 hours. And it was like, do y'all have sleeping bags here? It was just like an absolutely incredible experience, but it's one that I will never in my life forget.
I'm sure that's right. How do you, I guess this goes for each of you, how do each of you take encouragement in what you're doing to believe you are making a difference? How do you see, what signs do you look for that encourage you to believe that the work you're doing makes a difference?
Well, I bicker a lot too with my friend Avi Poster. He's over here somewhere. Yeah, there he is. But with that said, I take great pride in the work we've done, the community's done over the years by even being asked to be the interim director of human relations. I think that I take great pride in that because human relations in our city means so much, and we have a long way to go because our civil rights applies to everybody. It applies to every new arrival, and we shouldn't be afraid to speak out about our civil rights. And I'm so proud of our office and our city and our mayor and our team.
It's a very good feeling when you see people of different faith and different color and different background come together. And so when you sit back and you look across the room and you see people that are not supposed to sit together, that's a very good feeling.
I think that one of the great gifts we have is diversity, because I think it's through diversity that we reach the ultimate truth. And I just really cherish the diversity of the different religious faiths, because as one bishop said, Ian Douglas up in Connecticut, he said it really helps him to focus on his faith and the understanding of it, and enriches his faith, and it gives him more confidence to reach out to even more people and to have that great human contact. And the other issue is just one of justice and equality, and seeing another person who just wants the same sort of things that you do, but that brings a whole different perspective in the ways in which he or she reaches that, which is positive, which is holy, and which is godly. And it's just good to be in that sort of a relationship.
Well, for me, I guess it's the relationships with the people. Rick and I were talking, and we have a common friend, and the common friend is Father Bob Hudak, who used to be in Georgia, and he moved to North Carolina. And the relationship that Bob and I had was absolutely amazing. We were friends. We confidants of each other. We were mentoring each other. We did stuff together. To this day, he has been gone for over 8 years now. And to this day, I still call Bob and Bob calls me. And we ask each other, bounce off ideas. Relationships like that. Dr. Joseph Lombard, who is a professor of Islamic Studies at Brandeis. A couple of years ago, and his mom is here, a couple of years ago, the Islamic Speakers Bureau partnered with the Temple, which is a historic site in Atlanta, and the Anti-Defamation League, and we put together a program at the Temple, and it was called Understanding the Quran, and we had over 300 people come and listen to Dr. Lombard and a local rabbi talk about similarities between the Torah and the Quran. So things like that is what makes a difference to me, and that's what keeps me going. And by the way, encouragement from people really helps a lot. Somebody writing a note, saying thank you, this meant a lot to me, or this made me think differently. So each one of us in this room is empowered to help those who are in leadership positions to take that work even further.
This question is for Samayo, I think, but it's probably also it's probably for more than that, having heard the stories since these questions were rounded up. You spoke about having 3 identities: Egyptian, Muslim, and American. Could you comment a little more on what each one of those identities brings to who you are?
Would you like to go first?
I just say Egyptian.
Wow, I've never been asked that question before. Thank you for whoever asked it. I guess it was being almost like a third culture kid. I'm sure your kids could relate to that as well. Stepping in and out of cultures is just a daily thing, right? So at home, I would be very Egyptian with my parents because that was the expectation. At school, I was who's who in high school, in middle school. Who's who, I was in the newspaper staff, I was whatever. So, and so for that, it was, for me growing up, it was all 3 separate. But as I grew older, I saw the relevance and the advantages of having each one of those identities. And by the way, I thought I was weird having all those different identities. But since I started speaking about it, people say, yeah, I'm that way too. So I said, okay, great, I'm not that weird anymore. But I don't know if I'm answering the question.
I think you are. I think if I'm paraphrasing the question a little bit. I think the question sort of is, what have you kept out of those that makes you have who you are? And I think there may be a little bit of a bias here that says, has being in America, because there's a second question similar to this, how has being in America shaped you in a way that you might not be if you had stayed in Egypt the whole time?
Wow. This is a really neat question. All right. My work, okay, the stuff that I do for the Islamic Speakers Bureau is the fun work. But my work is I'm an intercultural consultant. And so I guess in terms of my Americanness is being direct. People from the Arab countries are indirect communicators. They tend to be more relationship focused. The Americans are more task focused. But I am able to kind of switch back and forth. It's your turn now.
What I love about what my American culture taught me is the directness as well, and the honesty. I love the idea that I can be who I am, the freedom to be who I can be. I think that's very powerful. America is a country where somebody can get up and call the president a liar. You can't do that in Nigeria. You know, and I tell everybody that that is powerful. But for me, it's never been like a split identity, because growing up and raising my children, I've always tried to make sure that I raise them as Muslim first. And I know that that may not make sense. I don't relate more to Nigerians than I do to Muslims. And so, I try to go within the teachings of my religion, people that has the same belief as I do. So my American friends, my Muslim friends are not necessarily Nigerian friends. And so that's the way that I've done it. But if I want to say what is the one thing that I like, my Nigerian culture, there's a lot of respect in it. We respect our adults. I cannot stand a child calling their parents by name. I still cannot. There's still something in me that turns. I cannot stand kids being disrespectful to adults. So that is one thing that is in my culture that is a little bit different. And I tell everyone that my children have the best of both worlds, because they can take what is in my Nigerian culture and my American culture and put it together. But it's a good blend. If you see people that have not traveled out or meet people of other culture, they're so limited in their thinking. I think the more you reach out, the more you learn. We have a lot to learn from each other. And so by learning from different cultures, you're actually putting together a better package. That's what I think.
I should have gone second.
I'll be quick. It's kind of funny. I think I was Jewish first. I think Christ was a Jew first, and then I was Catholic.
Yeah,
And last, you know. So you know, there's a whole bunch of ways of looking at that. So this whole thank you, Alvin. he's my brother. Maybe from the same mother. Anyway, what happens is, you know, I went to South America to go to school. We taught our two boys Spanish at home first. From a religious perspective, we were both Catholic, so that wasn't too heavy. But we learned through our travel, and we love to travel. We've been all over the world. And I think when we look at the world from a multicultural perspective, more Americans have to travel. They talk a lot about it, but when only 18% of Americans hold passports, that's disturbing. That's up from 9% just 3 years ago, because now you need a passport or a passport card to go to the Caribbean, Canada, or Mexico. So I just think that we can learn from one another and encourage people to travel, because that's a huge educational piece.
Chances are people from your own faith communities exist who would not necessarily enjoy this evening. How do you suggest that we deal with people from our own communities who may not appreciate or may in fact oppose gatherings exactly like this because they seem to be a selling out of our own faith traditions?
I'll let you handle that one.
It's about taking a risk. It's about reaching out and trying to find common ground, as you said, a safe place where there's no judgmentalism, where we talk about the things that we do agree on, and then go from there. It's not about debate. It's about dialogue. And I think it's about helping us to understand that we're not going to pass judgment, but we respect our different opinions. And then, admittedly, you get to a point where there's some folks that it's just not worth it. No, really. And so, you know, I hate to say that, you know, but that's where you take the risk. Is to take that step and to do that. I see this, working in many ways in terms of a lot of differences that we have. We're struggling now with LGBT issues, and how do we talk about those things in a safe, good place? So it has the same sort of dynamics. But as I said, if we think it's really important, then we take the risk. We create a safe place. We have that dialogue, not debate. We respect each other, and hopefully there'll be, if not, maybe some understanding and at least some tolerance, even if we haven't convinced anyone.
I look at this work as actually benefiting oneself. We believe that at the end of the day, we will all be accountable to the Lord of how we live on this earth. And I look at it as the way you treat others will be part of that accountability. So when you're actually reaching out and helping other people, don't look at it as if you're helping others or helping the community. I look at it as if you're helping yourself, because you're making your load lighter. And my people always say, when you point one finger out, the other four is pointing right back at you. So when I talk to people about doing this work, don't worry about the other people. Think about it as actually helping yourself. That's why I do this work, and that's why I try to talk to people about it. You are actually following your own faith, right? When the prophet tells us to love our neighbors, that's what we're doing. When Christ asked for forgiveness for the people that are being mean to him, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. That's him saying, I don't agree with what they do, but God, I'm praying for forgiveness for them. That is reaching. We don't have to understand. We don't have to agree. But within our different texts, within our different faith, we're taught to get along. We're taught to love people. And so that's what I try to tell my people, and that's how I encourage everybody. And it's a very rewarding thing. And again, we come back through education and hopefully expand the cycle. I always tell everybody that when we go to these events, it's a few people. I can pretty much say who is going to be here. But the rest of us need to go out and let people really understand why we do it, what we love about it. Everybody's experiences are different, but I think the more we talk about it one-on-one, I think the better we will expand the cycle.
I guess people who do interfaith work have been called Muslim light, Christian light, Jewish light, right? And people who choose not to do interfaith work, they are afraid to dilute their own religious beliefs. I was doing a session last weekend, and it was being an ally. And one lady who was there, they were all very open to interfaith work, to getting to know others, to diversity. And she said, I am a tolerant person, but I am intolerant of intolerant people.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I had to I did the same thing. So I think we need to, if we ourselves are very open to interfaith work, to diversity, etc., we have to realize that this is not the cup of tea for some folks. And if they're meant to come to it, they will, and if not, then let it be. Part of diversity.
Well, you talked about some issues that perhaps we hold at arm's length while we build trust, so held a couple of tough questions back, but here is one that is for Samaya first, and then for anybody else. In the minds of many people, Islam is indelibly linked in their minds to terrorism and to 9/11. And even after all the interfaith conversations, many people are still concerned that you are the exception, not the majority. So how do you feel at this point about 9/11? And how do you feel when you as a Muslim, as a human being, and as an American, hear of acts in America or elsewhere, including Israel, where people are killed and harmed, and it is reported to be in the name of Islam?
Well, first of all, Islam looks at human life as there's sanctity. It's so precious. And life is given by God, and it should only be taken by God, not anybody else. There is a verse in the Quran that says, if a person takes a person's life, an innocent person's life, it's as if they killed all humanity. And all humanity is defined from the time of Prophet Adam until the end of life on earth for everyone. So we're not talking about the 7 billion people who are on earth right now. We're talking about from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Plus, we don't know what the future holds. So that's pretty serious. It also says that if a person saves a life, it's as if they saved all humanity. So life is a serious matter. And the person that takes a life is promised the hellfire. Muslims, like Jews, like Christians, like Buddhists, like Hindus, like anybody else, people are people are people are people. We find extremists in all faith traditions, and what they do is the same across all faith traditions. They have an agenda they're pushing, and what better or strong backing than, hey, my religion tells me to do that. They cut and paste, take stuff out of context, and they will say, I mean, look at our own country. We had the KKK. A couple of years ago in Atlanta, they found a group, skinhead group, who had a hit list of politicians that they did not agree with. So craziness is not particular to Muslims. Unfortunately, these days we hear a lot about them. And they don't represent me. They don't represent, dare to say, 95% of all Muslims. And I think it's, when you look at the 1.5 billion Muslims around the world and look at how many people are doing crazy stuff for whatever agenda they're doing, it's a very small percentage.
What I tell people is that when these people do what they do, first, we all feel it. I remember when the Boston attack happened. My first posting on Facebook was, I hope the person that did this rot in hell. And I got a lot of people emailing me and said, Zulfan, why did you say that? And I said, the person that kills a 3-year-old child needs to rot in hell. Because I'm a Muslim does not mean I feel pain any less than somebody who is not. We condemn it, we're against it, we don't support it, and Islam does not encourage it. Just like Sister Sumaya said, these people have an agenda. And when you think about it, I tell everyone that if this is about killing non-Muslim, if these people are doing this in the name of Islam, why in God's name are they doing it in Iraq? Why do they burn people in Afghanistan? So that tells you that it's not about faith. It's just crazy people doing crazy things. And on 9/11, a lot of Muslims died there too. So this is not about Islam. They don't represent me, they don't represent her, they don't represent a lot of majority. It's a few people that have taken things out of context. And we strongly, strongly denounce it.
We were doing a book club in a library, and one of the books that they were reading had an essay about how the Muslim leadership across the country came together and strongly condemned terrorist attacks. And some of the folks there said, why do Muslims have to do that? And, I had to step in and say, Muslims have been condemning all the terrorist attacks, but unfortunately, the message is not being delivered. So, here tonight, we are condemning, guys, open up your ears, We all are condemning.
What?
Condemning.
What?
What? My friend back there, would you help me? So we are condemning terrorist attacks. It is against the spirit of humanity. It's against the spirit of Islam. It is against everything that, human being stands for.
Anybody else?
I think in one way or another we have covered, I hope, in the questions, all of the questions that were asked. And so I guess if you'd like to each take a minute or so to sum up and with your closing remarks, then we'll wind up.
Well, I just want to say what a wonderful opportunity, and I certainly appreciate the invitation to be here. It's exciting to see so many people here on what is a weeknight, and thank you for coming up from Atlanta. We appreciate that. I also think that we have to think about where we were just here in Middle Tennessee in 1923, I believe the year was, when they opened the first Catholic church in Murfreesboro. All right. And when they opened the first Catholic church in Murfreesboro, there was a big demonstration. There's photographs of it. It's very, very interesting. And it was the Ku Klux Klan. And the reason, and you could tell back then who was who, despite the hoods and whatever they were wearing, by their shoes. So it was very interesting because I guess people didn't buy shoes as often, and you could actually tell who each person was. And when you look at it today, all right, we have to stand together as a community, as a faith community, but as a United States community. So thank you.
I just feel so comfortable here because I'm with people that I think tolerant, believe in God.
I love you.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is truly a congregation of God, our Creator. And I would just say, stay vigilant. There's just so much that we are concerned about in our state and in the city, and it's a lot. But I think it's worth it for us to stay vigilant, especially in terms of this, because religion is so very, very important to us, especially to us in the South. And our world is changing, it's opening up, thank God. We're having all kinds of people coming here, making Nashville a truly international city. So we just have to stay vigilant, and we need to stick together and keep coming together like this. And thank you for being here.
I want to use the opportunity to thank the interfaith community. Often when we have guests from out of town, they're always scared to come here because of what they see on the news. And they hear about all the crazy stories of people objecting to Muslims in Tennessee. But what we've tried to tell them is that for every crazy person, there's 10,000 good people. What my community went through in Murfreesboro and in Farouk and everywhere else, what made it what it is and what made it bearable for us is because we have the friends like you that were standing with us. And so we tell everybody that what you see on TV is not the Tennessee that we know, because we know we have a lot of allies and we have a lot of friends. And so on behalf of my community, I want to thank all of you for what you did for us standing together. And I hope that we expand the circle and we continue to stand together. Thank you.
Well, it's really wonderful to sit around and listen to people talk, right? But what really matters is, what are you going to do with that? What is each one of us going to do with the information that was shared with us today? With panel, So can y'all think for just a second of one takeaway that you will start doing right away and continue doing it as a result of tonight? What I want you to do, if you will allow me, please get up, talk to somebody that you don't know, and we're going to give you like 3 minutes, so you're going to be fast talkers. And tell them what one takeaway it is that you will take with you from tonight. Go. Come on, guys.
Erwin Vinnick always does a tremendous job of closing these events with stirring oratory and powerful truth. Sadly, he is not here.
But you can do it.
I think the evening in that way speaks for itself. The very fact that these gatherings take place. One of the most transforming moments for me as an American, an person of faith, and as a human being was to stand in the graveyard at Srebrenica in the old Yugoslavia. 9/11 is horrific and horrible. And Srebrenica is another version of it with the actors in the reverse. These little conversations we have, these little moments of fear we overcome, these little moments when we look at people we barely know and say to each other, "You are and always will be my neighbor, and I will never turn on you for any reason." Because it was neighbors who did it to neighbors. It was family who did it to family. It's the same story that happened in Poland. It's the same tragic story so many places. Being nice, cordial people alone is not enough. We have to make deliberate choices about living out the best of who we are in the worst of the times we face, if we are to be people worthy of the inheritance of our faith and the country and the traditions that we have been given. So thank you for being here, and Sumaya's question is on point. Whom shall we be? What shall we do to make sure that we live out the best in us and the values and traditions and cultures we have been given? Thank you for being here. Please join us in the reception.